I've spent over 10,000 hours playing video games, and here's what I've learned. So I started getting into like video games when I was in primary school, so very young, just a few years old. And now I'm 23 this year, so I've spent almost 2 decades playing video games. And obviously, like back in the day, it was like Minecraft, Clash of Clans, a bit of like Club Penguin as well. But obviously over the years, I'm not going to list like every single video game out there just because there's like so many. But throughout the years, I've kind of like dabbled in all these like different types of like games, like mobile games or computer games. And the thing that I've learned from all of this is that ultimately video games for me was just an escape from reality. And here's what I kind of mean. Because when I was thinking about this, like, why was I so drawn to video games in the first place? Or why are we all so drawn to video games? Why is that almost like an instinctive thing? Like, if you look at like kids these days, I sound kind of old when I say that, but when I say like, primary school kids, like people that are just like, 4, 3, like years old, like very young, they all get into video games like quite quickly. I don't know if you've seen those videos online of like literally like toddlers like on an iPad. And when I like looked into this, one thing that really stuck out to me was this idea, which is, let me ask you a question. What is the most common word that you'll hear as a child? What's the most common word that you hear? So what's the most common word that's like spoken to you or that you'll hear as a child? And the most common word is the word no. And I just searched this up just so I can get the exact numbers. But it says that by the time we turn 18, we hear the word no around 150,000 times. But we only hear the word yes for 20,000 times. And so this means that we hear the word no 7 times more than yes in our childhood. And so it's like every day of the week, you hear the word no, and then the day after that, you'll hear yes. That's pretty much what, the ratio means. And when I think back to like my childhood, the fact that I heard no so much more than yes, like from my parents or from my teachers, like it really, for me, just reinforced that idea of like just avoidance and limitation. And for me, like that's probably where I really developed that like negative mindset of always trying to seek approval. Like I was always on that constant grind to like, seek approval from my parents, my teachers, just to get that praise, just because like, after hearing no so much of your lives, you end up like with a very low like self-esteem, which I genuinely like felt in like my childhood years. And so like whenever a teacher would like praise me about anything, like I would think about that for weeks because like, it was something that I was just like craving for throughout all of my childhood. And even though at that time, like it was very hard to find praise from like my parents or like teachers, there was one place that offered not just a bit of praise, but endless praise. And as you guessed it, it's video games. If you've played like any video game in the past, I'm talking about even like something like Candy Crush. If you just download Candy Crush, what you'll see is that as soon as you enter the game, there's the tutorial. So this is like the very easy like level that everyone can beat, and it teaches you like how to like beat it. But even in the tutorial, the game literally like congratulates you for every single move. Like you do the most basic thing and it's like, wow, you're amazing, congratulations, amazing move. Or like, you pass like level 1 and it goes like, wow, you're a king now, you're a master. And if you actually pay attention to the psychology of video games, any video game, not just like Candy Crush, like, same thing with like Clash of Clans or like, Club Penguin or whatever, pay attention to how many times the game praises you. Like, you barely put in any effort and the game just, congratulates you on everything. Like this cool sound effects like, wow, or something like that. Like the people that design like these video games, like the underlying psychology is very clear. Like the fact that, people are so like devoid and like deficient in like praise means that they often turn to video games as a source of like encouragement. And you might think, okay, that's kind of silly. Like, if I look at a game and it says like, congratulations, I don't truly believe that. And yeah, you can say that. Like I thought I was smart enough to know that it's just a hack. But when I think about like myself as a child, as a 5-year-old, like that encouragement encouragement like meant the world. And so the idea that I'm really trying to get at is that the fact that we hear no so much in our real lives often means we try and find yeses in our virtual lives. In other words, in a video game. And the thing is, there's ultimately like no way around it. Because the reason why we don't delay gratification in our real lives, the fact that it's so hard to work on a project in real life, is because video games short circuit this entire process. They're so appealing because they're the only time we get applauded for basically putting no effort in. In the real world, progress is slow, it's invisible. Like learning a skill, building a career, like getting into a relationship takes years, if not decades. And video games are a great way to stimulate that success and give us that sense of encouragement and praise. But here's the sad truth, which is that in a video game, you can build up this amazing life. You'll be like a level 100 king, or you'll have millions of gold or whatever, hundreds of diamonds. You'll have this amazing built up life in the virtual world. But as soon as you take off, the Apple Vision Pro, or as soon as you put down your device, you get snapped back into a barren reality. And that barren reality is the daily life we face every day. Going to school, going to work, university. And so video games ultimately just give you an illusion that you're making progress in life, when in reality, I hate to say it, because I had to come to terms to this in the most difficult way possible, but I realized that for me, I just was not making progress in life because I spent all that time making progress in video games. And it's sad. It's sad to think that, I've spent 10,000 hours on video games. People say that's how much time you spend on a skill to become an expert at anything. I could have become an expert in, I don't know, quantum mechanics or something with 10,000 hours. But obviously, for me at least, having this realization now is much better than, having it later down the line. And that's why I've spent a lot of time over the past a year or so really reflecting and thinking of the best way to make the most out of my 20s now. Because obviously the best time to start was 10 years ago, the best time to quit video games, but the second best time is now. So in terms of how am I planning on bringing the same motivation for video games into real life, ultimately there is no hard way. I went online to try and find some cheat code, people saying, turn life into a game, set clear goals, or have a habit tracker. To be honest, most of these small hack things don't really work for me. For me, it was just a mindset shift. That has been the most powerful. To just accept the reality that real life is a video game, but it's basically on ultra hard mode. What will take you a day to achieve on a video game, let's say 1 million gold, is probably going to take you a decade in real life. But that's the fun of the game. And so I just tried to reframe my mindset on how life is a video game, but just on ultra hard mode. And that has given me so much motivation. And so I just want to share that with you, because I know probably you watching this right now, you've probably gone through some video game addiction in the past, and it's it's one of those things yeah, you can play a bit of video games here and there. I'm not saying this is something that you have to completely get rid of in your life, but the idea is that you need to have control over it rather than letting it control you. So that's kind of what the main lesson I've learned after playing video games for almost 2 decades. So I want to leave that with you, and I genuinely wish all the best for whatever you're doing right now.